Okay. So those people with your hand in the air, keep it up there. Now, if while that was happening, you found it really easy to comprehend what you were reading, leave your hand up. So there's not many hands left up. So that's the whole point of the exercise, that we talk about sensory overload, but we don't get it. Now, we can't successfully emulate what sensory overload is, but we're hoping that that gives you a little taste of what it is. Now, we've just done that for 5 minutes. Okay, to give you an even better appreciation, autistic people, so people like Daniel, they deal with that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So any wonder that they have meltdowns in some situations, in certain settings, and no wonder it's hard for them to understand and take in what's going on around them at times. So that's the whole point of the exercise, to give you a little taste of what it might be like, even though we can't really emulate it, at least gives you some understanding. So thank you for participating. It's a bit of fun as well, but it's fun with nervous. Okay. So moving right along. So during Daniel's adolescence, I helped prepare him for independence. I had an expectation that Daniel would contribute to the family household chores and also to take responsibility for himself. At appropriate ages, Daniel assisted increasingly with household cleaning, and later with things such as mowing our lawns and garden maintenance. I took the time to teach him these tasks and to build his skill base. In hindsight, it would have also been beneficial to give Daniel more opportunities to learn basic cooking skills. However, he did learn some basic cooking skills at school.
At the age of 16, I gained access to a disability pension. I took on some financial responsibilities in contributing to the family through paying board. I also paid my own school fees, my own meals when we went out as a family, and so forth. Being responsible for my own money has helped me to manage my finances now that I'm independent. I have learned to be consistent in paying essential expenses such as rent and bills first, and setting up automatic payments for these essentials close to payday.
In Daniel's first couple of years of university, he continued to live at home with our family. However, by his third year of uni, I, along with others in Daniel's support networks, decided to support Daniel to transition to some more independent living arrangements on campus and to extend his independence. We considered various options and decided that student accommodation would be a good stepping stone for independent living. Daniel moved initially into a private student accommodation facility over the summer break.
I then transitioned to living on campus for 2 years in a residence targeted at mature age and international students. Living on campus really helped me to grow in independence, but I was journeying with other people. I largely learned my cooking skills as I went. Dad and fellow residents guided me with my cooking. I also made some great friends, some of whom I still keep in contact with.
Daniel did, however, struggle with dealing with fellow residents, especially when they didn't keep the common areas clean, and he put pressure on his housemates to tidy up after themselves in these areas. So that was always going to earn him a lot of great friends. Daniel was also generous towards his housemates, and perhaps a bit too generous at times. So he was taken advantage of financially by a fellow housemate who later bullied Daniel when he stopped giving him money. Daniel also had another housemate who bullied him and would put weird stuff in his drink bottles. So I needed to step in to assist Daniel to deal with those situations.
Despite the bullying I endured at the end of my time on campus, it did provide a much valued stepping stone to independent living. At the completion of my uni degree, I moved from student accommodation into a unit that I'm renting, which I've been living in for the past 7.5 years. I was willing to move into a cheap unit that was not much bigger than a broom cupboard. Dad talked me out of living there, which I'm glad about. I found a newly renovated unit that was much bigger and is cheap to rent. Once I got the keys to the unit, I was impatient to move in and struggled with the uncertainty of the actual day I would move in.
So Daniel didn't grasp how big the process of setting up his new home was. So I spent time with him explaining the process of connecting utilities into his name, buying furniture, and coordinating the move. I also spent time providing some suggested guidance around cleaning, groceries, and other general household maintenance.
I enjoyed this next chapter of my life, settling into independent living. I was very proud of myself. I did face problems in the first year of living in my unit. I had extremely loud meltdowns because of my perfectionistic nature. So I was beating myself up. I was also a night owl, and I'd have my music going loud. Due to my sensory struggles, I wasn't able to comprehend just how easily my neighbours could hear me at 2 a.m. in the morning. This resulted in them reporting me to my property manager. Although this was an unpleasant experience, it did help me become a better neighbour. I now have a limit on how loud I have my music. In fact, my current neighbour comments that she hardly hears anything. In fact, we as neighbours help each other out. Now to talk a little bit about employment. So when I finished uni, I did some freelance design work from home. A highlight was creating a visual bus timetable. I struggled though interacting with clients and managing the business. and it's easy to procrastinate a time or so. In Australia, we have federally funded disability employment services, so I accessed one by an autism organisation, so they help people to find a job and maintain employment. This provider offered me 1 day a week working directly with them, and I appreciated the more structured work environment and decided this was the best option for me. I later changed to another employment service provider. They involved me in a month-long personal development and employment skills course, which focused on job preparation. It was very beneficial and motivated me to be more proactive with my job search. I didn't specifically apply for advertised jobs, but offered my skills and used my contacts.
So Daniel now works part-time as a graphic designer and photographer for Catholic Education Sandhurst. So that's the regional office for their schools in quite a large area. So as a family, we're so grateful for the commitment Catholic Education Sandhurst has made to employing Daniel. He's well supported by his employer, and with the assistance of his Disability Employment Service, he's been able to advocate for his needs in the workplace and maintain employment. It was a learning curve for both Daniel and his colleagues initially, but he now feels he is a valued part of that workplace. So this highlights the importance of finding the right employer to support a person on the autism spectrum. And as we're finding back home, and I have heard since we've been travelling this last week or so, more and more stories of employers who are actively seeking to employ people who live on the autism spectrum. Because they understand if they find the right job for them, something that they're interested in, they will be the perfect employee. They will turn up when they're supposed to turn up, they will work when they're supposed to work, they will have their breaks when they're supposed to have their breaks, and they will be focused on their work and the times that they're needing to work on them. They won't take sick leave unless they're sick. So back home, there's a perceived culture of taking sickies, just have a day off work. They certainly won't do that. So there's a big shift happening, and we're hoping to see that progress more and more, both home and abroad. So we have up here, as I said, Daniel works as a graphic designer and photographer for his employer. Daniel has a really interesting perspective, and I love seeing his photos because he always takes them from an angle that I and many others would never think of. So these are an example of a couple of photos that Daniel's taken for his work. So Daniel, as I said, has appropriately used the Disability Employment Service and his extended network of friends and others to support him in his employment. However, Daniel has always known that I'm here to support him, and he does call upon me when he needs me. So I've tried to step back and let him forge his own path with my support where he calls for it, but he also has another network, his other networks, that he chooses what's the appropriate one at the time that he needs support. Occasionally, Daniel has me to sit in on his Disability Employment Service meetings to support him. But that's usually when there's been a problem that's been quite stressful for Daniel, and he's been consulting with me anyway, but he just wants me in the room as that security blanket. And I find that I do less and less to have input in those meetings, and usually I'm there as the security blanket that sits in the corner, or Daniel negotiates out what he needs to, and at most I maybe summarise what's been agreed to at the end to make sure that everyone's on the same page. So I cannot stress enough how important it is for a parent to learn where to step back and let your child steer their own journey at the appropriate age. Again, just like the tough love, and the tough love is what leads to this. So just like the tough love, as difficult as this can be, both you and your child will reap the benefits of that strategy.
Now, more on my journey of independence. Some challenges I faced living on my own include feeling like I could do a better job at cleaning my unit, but I recognise that I lead a busy life and my executive functioning challenges also make this difficult. I now keep my cleaning or some cleaning materials on visual display in my bathroom, which occasionally I'll give the bathroom a quick wipe over. I now tend to eat microwave meals or eat out, as it takes a big effort to cook with both my motor skills and the executive functioning required in preparing a meal. Supermarkets can be a challenge for me due to the sensory overload, and also transporting groceries home is a challenge because I don't drive. So I do my big grocery shop online and get it home delivered. I tend to spend large amounts of time on the internet and have stayed up until 3 AM online, leading me to having a stressful day the following day. So I've invested in some internet time filters that Dad has the passwords for to help me manage this better. I use keep locks on my mobile devices and focus on my laptop.
So my challenge is remembering those passwords when Daniel asks me for them. This isn't in our notes, but I've got a little story about the supermarket shopping. Shall we tell the supermarket shopping story? Okay, so normally we start this story off by asking where you think might be one of the most feared places for a parent to take their child on the spectrum when and the answer is the supermarket. And there's many others as well. So this story just quickly talks about when Daniel was about 5 or 6 years old, so in early school years. We had this real problem when we went to the supermarket. And that problem was that although Daniel was still quite small and I could wedge him into the seat in the shopping trolley to keep him contained, he would have a meltdown if I didn't follow a particular pattern through the supermarket. So he needed me to start here and go up and down every aisle until we got to the end. So that meant I couldn't even go back 2 or 3 metres to grab something that's right there without it being something that Daniel couldn't cope with and would have a meltdown. So that was quite difficult, and I needed to find a solution. And that solution was that despite Daniel being quite young still, I negotiated a deal with him. And that deal was that when we went to the supermarket, I would do what he needed. And that was, as soon as I put him in the trolley, we would follow that path that he required without deviation, without going backwards, until we got to the other end of the supermarket. And then the next step of that deal was that I could then go wherever I needed to in the supermarket to finish our shop. So that made it bearable for all of us. So, of course, before that, it was not a very pleasant experience for Daniel because he would be led to a meltdown. It wasn't a very pleasant experience for myself because of the meltdown, and it certainly probably wasn't a very pleasant experience for everyone else in the shopping centre or in the supermarket. So to make that deal work, I had to be very consistent. I had to do a lot of coaching, so on the way to the supermarket, I would remind Daniel of the deal. As we were going through the supermarket, I would remind him of the deal. And I'd also have a reward at the end of it. So if we got to the supermarket, did what met his needs, and then I could do what met my needs, there would be a reward. And that might have just been some hot chips from the little deli across the way from the supermarket, whatever it was. So there was a focus for him that, now we can do this. And with that consistency, and consistency is really important, it didn't take very long for us to be able to have a much more pleasant shopping experience. Now, as Daniel said, the sensory overload in the supermarket still is an issue for him, so he does most of his big shopping online and has it home delivered. When Daniel got a little bit older, and I couldn't contain him in the seat on the shopping, he was a bit more mobile in the supermarket, and then developed a nasty little habit of licking the packaging on frozen food items. And that was something that I worked very hard at very quickly to put an end to. So I was really consistent in denying him being able to do that and explaining why, and reinforcing that with that discussion on the way to and at the supermarket, and also the reward at the end. So I was able to turn that around very quickly. And that is a clear example of, whilst we're talking about making accommodations to be able to fit in, there are some things that are just not acceptable, so you have to work hard to bring them to an end. So sorry I've digressed, and now I'm back on track. So Daniel mentioned the lock devices on his phone and on his computer. And I'm very proud of the way that Daniel lives independently, and he uses strategies such as that to help him through his challenges. Now, whilst I still support Daniel where needed, his growth has meant that I try to step back and only help Daniel when he seeks my advice or asks for my support. And that could be for things such as dealing with government agencies. It could be for home maintenance items. And there's a few regular home maintenance items that Daniel gets me to help him with once or twice a year. And sometimes it's because of one of these. So let me guess, there's someone out there that doesn't really like seeing that on the screen, so we've prepared for you as well. So spiders. So we have this family joke at home within the family, and that is that if I get a phone call from Daniel at say midnight or 1 in the morning, I now just answer the phone with, "Where's the spider, mate?" Because I know that's what's coming. So I try to respect Daniel is an adult and has the right to have his own opinions and his own ideals and his own extended support network. I don't always agree with Daniel, but Daniel doesn't always agree with me. But that's normal. Isn't that what we all want for our adult children? So again, reinforcing that, I can't stress enough how important it is for a parent to learn where to step back and let your child steer their own journey at the appropriate age. And the difficulties around that are for both of you, but you will reap the benefits. And I'm not going to be around forever. So if I haven't prepared Daniel for independence, what happens when I'm gone? Well, either way, Daniel's siblings, I'm sure, will step in to help him out. But if I've prepared Daniel for independence, the needs for them to support him will be much less, and will enable them to continue doing or undertaking their busy lives, looking after their work and their families and their other commitments. So it's a win-win for everybody. It's a win for Daniel because he's got the independence and can survive and can live his life in a fulfilling way, but also there's not so much pressure on his siblings to take up the slack when I'm gone.
I'm proud to have achieved my independence, or my goal of independence, and I appreciate having a space of my own. Now, I've been sharing my experience of being on the autism spectrum since the age of 13, when I spoke at a mini conference for special educators. I often gave presentations to school groups or school teachers and community groups and my class at school. This helped with people better understanding me and led to a reduction of bullying. Over the years, I've spoken around Australia to community groups, health professionals, government representatives and schools, as well as at autism seminars and conferences, speaking on similar topics to that presented today.
So I've got a little story for you, and this relates to a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. Daniel had been engaged to present at some autism conferences in Perth and another place over in Western Australia. So Perth's 4 hours flying time from where we live. And at that point in time, Daniel hadn't flown independently. He'd flown on a school trip when he was about 16 or 17, and he'd flown with the family when he was much younger, about 9 years old. Before going to Perth, Daniel had to go to Sydney for another commitment, and usually he would do that by travelling by train or bus. But we had the discussion and decided that he should fly to Sydney, which is only a 1 hour flight, but it would be a good opportunity to prepare him for the longer flight independently to Perth. So I said I would support Daniel, and I drove him to the airport. So the trip for us to get to the airport is about an hour and a half. So I've driven Daniel to the airport, and we've used that hour and a half for Daniel to ask all the questions he needed to prepare him for the process of going through the airport and the flight and the departure lounge at the airport at the other end. We got to the airport and Daniel checked his luggage independently. I just hung around nearby. And then we went to the security checkpoint. And unfortunately it was particularly crowded. It was a fairly small space and there was a lot of noise, a lot of people close together. Daniel has auditory processing issues, so the noise is particularly something that isn't comfortable for him. So I went through the security check myself, and Daniel was behind me. I walked the 4 or 5 metres to the wall the other side of it and stopped, and as I turned around, Daniel was going through the metal detector, which suddenly sounded. And I saw Daniel turn white, and he was visibly shaking. Now, I knew that Daniel couldn't hear the instructions properly from the security staff because of all the other noise around. So I'm standing, 5 or 6 metres, maybe a touch more away from Daniel, and I had to make a decision. So I'll just point out that on the inside, I'm very calm on the outside, on the inside, there's a party going off inside of me, thinking this is just perfect, I couldn't ask for better. And my decision was, do I go and help Daniel, or do I stay right here? And if you're me, you're staying right here. Unless Daniel has a meltdown, then I step in. So I stood there. It was difficult to watch. It was difficult for Daniel, but he worked his way through it. It turned out to be the belt that he was wearing, which I told him would be fine and he could leave it on. Not to set him up, because I thought it would be fine. And it took a while to work through it, but he worked through it, and probably took him 5 minutes to put himself back together, still white and still shaking. But he did that, and I remained standing exactly where I was. I didn't budge, because he didn't have a meltdown. And as he approached me, I just put my hand out and said, "Well done, mate. You'll be fine next time when you're flying on your own." Interestingly, he didn't invite me back to the airport next time.
2 years ago, I embarked on my first overseas trip to speak at an autism conference in Bhutan, a small country in the Himalayas near Mount Everest. So this is my second trip out of Australia. Yeah. The conference was an opportunity to network with the worldwide autism community, and it's a calling I've had for several years. I met the local Prime Minister who's wearing the orange robe that accompanied me to support me. I even coped with street dogs as I knew they weren't particularly interested in people. I'm pleased at how well I managed, especially at airports, and was able to develop resilience to stress. I'm learning to accept things I can't change, while also working on minimising the opportunity to be caught out, for example, with simple things such as having cash on me to be ready for when like credit card facilities aren't available. I had an open mindset not to take things for granted, and I went with the flow. And I'm good with new situations, but I struggle with changes to the normal routine. Back home, our train service can be replaced with buses, and I don't particularly like that because it's an overfull bus usually. Yeah. In recent times, Dad has been encouraging me to look towards moving out of my rental unit and look at owning my own place. I feel that while my rental has served me well, I'd like to spread my wings and move into something a bit bigger for the long-term future. It would give me more security with my housing also. So in closing, I want to reassure you that autistics like myself are different, not broken. Or as your mantra says, different, not less. Your child will possess special talents and skills, but they may need assistance to overcome the sensory overload around us and the other misinterpretations of the social constructs that we need to learn in order to allow us to shine. As other people on the spectrum have pointed out recently, we have different social skills.
So we'd like to thank you for listening to us today. We didn't time how long today would go, so we've gone slightly longer than we expected, but I hope you're okay with that. We often do a presentation that's about 2 hours long, so twice that long, so there's a lot more content that we would love to be able to share with you, but the time hasn't provided for that. It's been a real honour to be invited to speak for you during our short stay in Kuala Lumpur, and we're very pleased to have been able to facilitate that. Now finally, as I mentioned earlier, Daniel has a unique eye for photography. So as you can see, this is another of Daniel's photos. And can you guess what it is? It's his clothesline with some clothes on it. So very different perspective, of course. So thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and we hope that you've gained something from what we've had to present. We're happy to take questions in this forum, or if you're not so comfortable, after we've completed this forum, we're happy to have a one-on-one chat to people as well. So thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives to come and hear what we've got to share.